Haley heads home, but does she have a playbook? All that and more now on Graph's Grievances. Nikki Haley vowing her campaign for the Republican presidential nomination is far from over after suffering another loss to Donald Trump, this time in New Hampshire. The former president defeating Haley by around 10 points in the Granite State last night after crushing her by 32 points in the Iowa caucuses last week. And while on the surface it might appear that Haley is catching up to Trump, narrowing her margin of defeat, in reality she has almost zero chance of becoming the Republican presidential nominee so long as Trump is alive. And that is because the Republican Party and the vast majority of its voters have thrown out all of their principles in allegiance to one man, Donald Trump. The Republican Party is no doubt the Donald Trump Party. Just look at the results from the New Hampshire Republican Primary last night, which uniquely allows independents to cast a ballot. According to exit polls, Haley lost Republicans by a staggering 74% to 25%. To be clear, that means Haley won just 25% of Republicans who voted in the Republican primary. As for Trump, he won 74% of Republican voters who voted in the GOP primary. The only reason Haley was able to come within around 10 points of Trump is because she won 66% of the voters who were not registered Republicans, but cast their ballot in the Republican primary. The problem for Haley is that virtually no other state has a plethora of independent voters who can infiltrate a Republican primary and back her. To win the Republican presidential nomination, you have to be able to win Republican voters. And Haley, along with Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, and a ton of others, can't win Republican voters because they are in the cult of Donald Trump. Even the supposedly neutral arbiter of the primary process, Republican National Committee Chair Ronna, formerly Romney McDaniel, said this last night.
Looking at the math and the path going forward, and I don't see it for Nikki Haley. I think she's run a great campaign, but I do think there is a message that's coming out from the voters, which is very clear. We need to unite around our eventual nominee, which is going to be Donald Trump, and we need to make sure we beat Joe Biden.
Yes, she too is now unabashedly on Team Trump, just like former Trump opponents, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and Florida Senator Marco Rubio. In fact, Trump now has the endorsement of 26 of the 49 Republican senators and the backing of at least 122 of the 219 House Republicans. So while Haley insists she's on to South Carolina, I'm not so sure she's actually going to be competing in the primary there on February 24th. As you will recall, just last week, DeSantis said he got his ticket punched out of Iowa and was continuing his campaign before summarily dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump just 5 days later. And yes, Haley was the governor of South Carolina for 2 terms before being tapped by Trump to join his administration. But she last won a race there 10 years ago, a decade, when Trump was still a semi-successful developer hosting a reality TV show on NBC. Haley's home state of South Carolina is a very different place than when she last held public office there. According to 538, Haley currently trailing Trump in the Palmetto State by more than 35 points. And while she now has a month to campaign in South Carolina, it is very hard to see her making inroads with the Trump fawning electorate that voted for him twice by over 10 points. So why does Haley keep her campaign alive? and what, other than a lack of funds, might get her out of the race. Unlike most politicians, she has very little to lose. Haley was already governor for 2 terms, and she already served as a cabinet secretary. There are really only 2 bigger jobs in politics: president and vice president. And if Haley does not win either of those titles this year, she will likely have missed her opportunity forever. 4 years from now, she will be another washed-up politician out of office for more than a decade, and Republicans will have moved on to a new shiny object. Therefore, the only reason for Haley to get out of the race now, as long as she still has funds, is if Trump offers her the vice presidency. Will he do that is anyone's guess, but it would likely be his best move if he seeks to really win in November. Haley attracts the moderate voters Trump needs to win in order to defeat Biden. Without Haley, or someone like her, perhaps Tim Scott, Trump's odds against Biden look pretty dire, considering Biden already defeated him once, and Trump's insanity has only increased since then. Thank you for watching Graph's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share. It really helps me grow this channel. And join me tomorrow for more.